So today we're here to talk about nursing for planetary health, calling nurses to co-create the great transition, presented by one of my favorite people, Teddie Potter. Um, and I think Teddie will probably go over the objectives when she presents. And a little bit about Teddie. Teddie is deeply committed to climate change education, including co-founding Health Professionals for a Healthy Climate membership in the Alliance for Nurses in a Healthy Environments, and membership on the American Academy of Nursing Environmental and Public Health Expert Panel. She is a member of the coordinating committee of Columbia University's Global Consortium on Climate and Health Education, and a fellow in the Institute of the Environment at the University of Minnesota. She chairs clinicians for planetary health, C4PH, and is a member of the steering committee of the Planetary Health Alliance at Harvard. In 2019, Teddie was appointed the first director of planetary health for the School of Nursing at the University of Minnesota. In addition, Teddie is an executive editor for the Interdisciplinary Journal of Partnership Studies, a peer-reviewed open access online journal promoting interdisciplinary collaboration as a solution for solving society's grand challenges. And just by a show of hands, for those of you on the call, raise your hand if Teddie has ever taught you. So I think many of us have call you friend and mentor. So glad to be here and honored that you are giving of your time for us today.
Thank you. And back at all of you. I feel like we're all friends in this circle. It's, as you said, it's blustery tonight. It's not exactly cold quite yet, but I feel like we should be sitting around a fire and starting the winter tradition of telling stories and telling stories of courage, which I just heard you mention about the Women's Memorial and courage of going to graduate school. That's another story. And several of you are doing that or have done that. And just, yes. Your hand is up, Christina. Is that because I didn't know if it was a legacy hand. What we call a legacy hand is still there. So it's just nice to be in your midst tonight. And I'm going to share my screen, and Kathy is.
I would put it down as soon as I figure out how to do that.
Oh, lovely.
Sorry.
It's kind of interesting. Some of the new Zooms, they will put it down for you. They'll say, oh, it's been up for 5 seconds. I also heard that Zoom, well, they do take notes. So the new ones, you can have AI take notes. And I thought, really? I'm sure, would they be able to figure this out? I sat in on a meeting and the notes were spectacular. It's like, oh, wouldn't that be nice to never have to take notes again? Somebody else is taking notes. But I also found out that AI has an algorithm that you can use on Zoom, and it can tell you if you're an obnoxious Zoom participant. If you talk too much and don't allow others to speak, it gives you a bad score. I thought, well, isn't that interesting? So we're in a brave new world, folks, aren't we? So tonight I'm going to be talking about nursing for planetary health. I put the objectives in the chat space so that you can keep me honest. I'm wide open to questions, but because it's hard, I have my chat shrunk down right now. I think I'll wait till the end before I take questions, but there's going to be plenty of time, hopefully, for dialogue is what I have planned into this. So I'm going to play a little catch up because I don't want to assume that everybody knows what the heck I'm talking about, even though my students know quite a bit about planetary health. And so first of all, I want to just acknowledge the people of the land. This is Dakota Territory, where I happen to be sitting right now and where many of us are gathered. If you're up in the North Shore and Duluth area, it's the Anishinaabe or Ojibwe people. We have 11 indigenous nations in the state of Minnesota, which is quite wonderful and remarkable. And I always like to begin with the original people who seem to live upon the land without destroying it. So we have to get back to understanding what it's like to live in right relationship with the land. Globally, the indigenous populations represent 6% of the human population, but they're responsible for 80% of all biodiversity. So we in the planetary health movement see them as very, very important teachers for all of us. Whoo-hoo, look at these people. I want to start with MNORN has a history of stepping up and speaking out about climate change. Kathy has certainly been a wonderful national advocate and has been pushing and inviting and gently getting recalcitrant states chapters to move into this space. But just nationally, you are deeply respected. And you might think, well, we haven't done that much. You've done far more than others, and you are seen as the leaders in this space. When I go to places, they talk about you, they talk about your chapter. And so just know that you are considered the leaders. I also bring up the ANA's whole work. There's their code of ethics, which I just love, and I carry it with me and use it. Really has a beautiful, beautiful principle that helps guide our actions in this space. Principle 9.4. And as a matter of fact, I think some of you know that a couple years ago, I was asked to testify for Minnesota State Legislature Committee. And I brought my nursing code of ethics, and I talked about nurses being ethically obligated to care for our environment. If we are practicing our profession as it's designed to be practiced, we will care for the environment. And it is a form of justice. And when I said that in front of the committee, they said, "Oh, nurses rock." We wish other professions had a code of ethics too. And I said, absolutely. Then if we go up from the local level to the national level to the international level, the International Council of Nursing has been in this space for a long time as well, with statements in 2018 about sustaining and protecting our natural environment. In 2021, about advocating for initiatives to reduce harmful practices. In 2022, being an important partner and working on health policy. And in 2023, really looking at the Sustainable Development Goals. So we're in good hands, folks. We're really in good hands. And planetary health is gaining momentum. I wanted you to know that the National League of Nursing has a statement on climate change and planetary health. The ANA has a statement on climate change and planetary health. And Sigma just yesterday put out a resolution to orient towards planetary health. That is really, really exciting. And the NLN also is going to be setting up they have centers of excellence, and they're starting as centers of excellence on climate change and planetary health. So schools that are NLN certified or around the country can do the work to be recognized as a center of excellence. Wow, this place is growing and hopping. So I want to tell you and invite you into an amazing story. As I've been working in the area, climate space area for, over a couple decades now. But I began in about 2015, 2016, right around there, thinking, you know what? I'm just fighting against climate change, and it is not getting anywhere. I need to think differently about this. First of all, I need to look at what is causing this change? What is the issue? And try to turn our behaviors around. Secondly, climate change is not the only issue. We've got a lot of environmental issues teeing up right now, and it is a big problem. So that's right about the time planetary health was coming around. When they came around, I thought, this is so good, because I can pivot from fighting against climate change to fighting for a healthier world and healthier environment. So I got just really sold on planetary health as a global unifying philosophy, paradigm, movement that really can solve this problem. And I looked at ICN. I thought, okay, how do we get the global nurses involved? And I looked at the ICN website, and it's like, I just don't see how you can submit an article. I don't see anything about how they, what they accept or anything like that. So I contacted Kathy, and Kathy said, "Oh, I can help you on that. I'll reach out to them." And before I knew it, Pam Cipriano was sending me an email saying, "Teddie, this is exactly what we want to be working on right now." So it went from a spark of an idea to instantly becoming an ICN initiative, with fortunately the help of Kathy along the way. So part of it is we can't create a global movement if people don't know what it is. We were going to do a planetary health book. Well, nobody's going to pick up a book on a topic that they don't know anything about. So we had to build the movement before we write the book. And so to build the movement, I pulled planetary health nurses from around the world that are working in this space into this spot to start to work on this. And you know as well as I do that you just don't get much done in a half-hour Zoom call or every other week meeting. You just do not. So I planned a retreat, and I brought everybody to Charleston Meadows here in Minnesota. And fortunately, these people were game for it. They're not all from the winter climates. Some of them come from southern climates, but they were willing to come here to Minnesota. I rented a University of Minnesota van, picked them all up from the airport, and we went out to the center, and we spent 3 days together, intensely trying to figure out what does it mean to nurse for planetary health. And these are the people: Barb Astle from Canada, Pam Cipriano, who many of you know from ANA, as a former president of ANA, now the president of the International Council of Nursing. Jessica LeClaire is a wonderful new faculty member at UW-Madison. Janelle Lipke is also UW-Madison. She's Indigenous, which we really wanted to have strong participation. Myself, Heidi Honegger-Rogers from the University of New Mexico School of Nursing. Deanne Shepard, she's from up in Nova Scotia, another Indigenous nurse. Sonali Sanjita Balaji, who really helps groups function and move process forward. And then Kate Morales, our artist. So to catch people up who might not be familiar with planetary health, and because I don't have your pictures on, tell me if anything goes off the rails here, like if you can't see me or can't hear me, because I can't see you waving me down. So these are the things that are happening. Forests are being cleared at an alarming rate. Biodiversity is rapidly disappearing. It's happening at 1,000 times the normal baseline. The oceans acidifying, lands becoming desert. We have soil, air, and water ecosystems are being polluted. Rivers are drying up, and with decreased drinking water, and our aquifers are also being drained. There's extreme weather events, which you all know about. Temperatures are increasing and sea levels are rising. All of this is happening. I follow the work of the Stockholm Resilience Center from Stockholm University, and they have done the science behind 9 planetary boundaries. These planetary boundaries, if you think of it like a human body, they're the 9 essential systems for the planet to continue to have life support systems. And these are the ones, and if we exceed them all, life on this planet cannot really survive. So look at the numbers up here. And in 2009 we had 3 boundaries were crossed. 2015 4 boundaries were crossed. 2023 6 boundaries were crossed. It is not looking pretty, folks. It is not looking pretty at all. And this is climate change, but it's also freshwater use, our land management, and biodiversity falls into this. So we are in a heck of a lot of trouble. And all of it has health impacts. As a matter of fact, the 5th national assessment was just released this past week. They produce them every 4 years to say what's happening in our country related to climate change. It's a congressional mandate. And it was very, very sobering. There is no place in the United States that's free of impacts from climate change. And all of these healthcare issues are happening. And obviously, we're zooming in from Minnesota, so I'll talk to you about what's happening in Minnesota. In Minnesota, our summers are actually cooling. You wouldn't know it by last summer, with terrific heat spikes. And then our winters are warming. So in the summer, it's cooling a little bit. But the problem is, when we have these heat spikes, we also have humidity, just like Minnesota's always had humidity. And when you have humidity, you don't evaporate the water on your skin. Evaporation is a natural cooling mechanism. We don't evaporate. And because of that, we do not shed heat. And so the heat builds up and becomes a dangerous level. It's very, very critical when the nighttime temperatures don't dip, because nighttime is when our body sort of recalibrates and gets sort of renews itself and is ready for another hot day. If we do not get that break and we stay overheated all night long, that is when it can become life-threatening. And Minnesotans are not real good at heat. We don't get it. We're not used to it. We could have a few days of 90s and the dog days of August, but now we're seeing them in June, and we're seeing streaks of them, and we're not well prepared. Similarly, we're not well prepared for poor air quality days. If we were in California and used to wildfire seasons, everybody would have their app measuring air quality index, and you'd know when to go out and what type of air quality to be concerned about. We are air quality illiterate in here in Minnesota, because generally we're in the nice green zone. We come from the land of sky blue waters. That's what our name means. Minnesota means the land where the waters reflect the sky. We're used to really, really clean air. So when the summer, when the AQI was up in the 260s, I saw it at 285 was the highest that I took a picture of. There were still people outside going for walks. They just did not understand how dangerous it is to have that large particulate matter in the air. It's not just dangerous for people with asthma or other lung diseases. It is dangerous for everyone. But we do not understand that. In the winter, we are seeing terrible ice episodes. As I say to folks, in Minnesota, when I grew up, you skated on ice, but that was about it. Now ice are on the sidewalks, they're on the driveways, they're on your steps, they're on the roads, because we're having these freeze thaw episodes, and we're also having rain in the wintertime, which is just unheard of until about the early 2000s. And so because of that, we have rain, and then it freezes, and then we have little dustings of snow on top of that. And we have all sorts of people showing up in the EDs with closed head injuries, broken hips, motor vehicle accidents, and ice is a huge issue in Minnesota. Our allergy season has extended by 21 days. So people with any allergy-induced asthma is a problem. People who have previously did not have allergies are now having allergies because the trees are different. They're actually coming up from Iowa, and we have Iowa trees, and our trees are starting to migrate towards Canada. As a matter of fact, in 2100, the Boundary Waters it's going to be an oak forest. You will go to the Boundary Waters. Well, none of us will, because we won't be around, but our children and children's children will go to the Boundary Waters to enjoy lakes surrounded by oak trees. This is so happening so quickly that we're helping the trees migrate. There's farmers up in northern Minnesota that are working with farmers in Iowa that are harvesting the seeds from their trees, shipping them to northern Minnesota, where the farmers are starting to grow them and plant them. So by the time we're really, our climate is shifting, we will have trees that can survive. So all of this is happening, and we're at war right now in multiple places, but we are going to see increased civil strife and trauma. So that's the tough news, the dire news. Now let's move to the healthy place, and that is planetary health. And planetary health is a solutions oriented, which is fabulous, transdisciplinary field and social movement focused on analyzing and addressing the impacts of human disruptions to Earth's natural systems on human health and all life on the planet. There's a couple things here that I want to call your attention to. Solutions oriented. We're not just studying the problem. There's not just reports and reports and reports about carbon CO2 levels rising or sea levels rising, or it's solutions oriented. What are we going to do? How are we going to mitigate this or stop this or decrease the impact? How are we going to help people stay healthy with all these changes? It's transdisciplinary, meaning that it's not just interprofessional, it's not just health professionals, it's not just politicians, it's every single discipline is needed in this movement. And it is a movement, and it is growing very, very quickly, as I mentioned. Some of you have heard of public health and One Health. That might be more familiar. Global health. Eco-health might be a little less familiar, and certainly you've heard of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. All of these have some, if you look at a pie chart, some titration of animals, humans, and land. So public health, we're concerned about, rabies, and we're concerned about vermin. And so we do talk about animals. We do talk about the environment. It's oftentimes about lead in our water or localized air pollution, but mostly it's focusing on the health of the public, so humans. Eco-health flips that. They focus mostly on the land. One Health has deep the focus on the animal-human intersection, so zoonotic diseases, and global health is human health at the global level. UN Sustainable Development Goals comes the closest to planetary health, but even it is not quite as inclusive as planetary health. So I'm gonna have Kathy play a video for you. Are you able to do that, Kathy? Because sometimes when I play this on mine over Zoom, it doesn't quite do it. So are you able to play that for me? I'll stop the share and let you do your thing.
All right, I'm going to give it a go.
And you have to enable your sound. Do you know how to do that? There's like a little checkbox when you choose share. When you share your screen, there's like a little checkbox at the bottom that says share sound.
I'm looking.
Okay. While you're
I found it.
Okay.
Yay. And then we'll see if I can find this. Can you see
Planetary
it?
health is a new field and
We
social.
can't see it, so you'll need to share your screen.
Effects of the
Hang on. Thought I had.
crisis. Planetary health research teaches us that our dismantling of nature has become an urgent threat
You'll
to
have
our
to click on the thumbnail or the.
climate change, loss of biodiversity, and other forms of global environmental change are interacting to affect the core foundations of human well-being. From the quality and quantity of food we can produce to the quality of air we breathe and water we.
Okay, it's going to take me 1 second.
It's okay. Do you know how to share your screen?
I do, but it's giving me some information that we'll just see if this works.
If not, I can try mine and we'll just know that if I get booted off, Kathy will take over. I'll try.
Okay, it's doing weird things.
Okay, I'll try mine.
All right.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, please. Oh, how annoying. Sometimes Zoom updates and I see what you mean. There's something, enter an administrator's password and stuff. Oh, that's so annoying.
Let me
Okay.
see.
Oh, for the good old days when we're all together and not on Zoom, huh?
Let's see if I can.
Okay, that looks. Are you getting that?
Planetary health is a new field and social movement focused on addressing the human health effects of the Earth crisis. Planetary health research teaches us that our dismantling of nature has become an urgent threat to our own health and well-being. Climate change, loss of
Did you?
Okay, I've stopped sharing mine, so now try.
Okay. Okay, we'll try this again, folks. Thank you for your patience. Nope, I need an administrator, Kathy, so I think I'll put the link into the chat and I'll move along. Okay.
Okay.
planetary health.
Or you
is
can
a
listen
new
to the
field
audio.
and social movement
That's fine
focused
too.
on addressing the human health effects of the Earth crisis. Planetary health research teaches us that our dismantling of nature has become an urgent threat to our.
I'll ask, can you hear this okay, or am I the only person hearing it?
It's good.
I'm hearing
Okay.
it and seeing it.
We
Okay,
can
oh,
hear
good,
and
good.
see.
Oh, perfect.
Being. Climate change, loss of biodiversity, and other forms of global environmental change are interacting to affect the core foundations of human well-being, from the quality and quantity of food we can produce, to the quality of air we breathe and water we drink, to our exposure to infectious diseases and extreme weather events. Every dimension of health is being affected. Safeguarding human health and well-being and
That was
the
me.
rest of life on Earth will require deep, urgent structural change in how we live and a global commitment to reversing our degradation of Earth's natural systems. Our growing awakening to this fact holds enormous promise. Looking out across the domains of global food systems, energy systems, manufacturing and the circular economy, and urban design, we see a rich landscape of solutions. We can imagine a world in which we have extended today's remarkable gains in renewable energy technology and moved to a post-combustion energy system. A world where we're producing food and manufactured goods with dramatically reduced ecological inputs. And a world where most of us are living in cities that have been designed to optimize physical, mental, and cultural health while allowing nature to regenerate. The moment we face calls for more than rapid innovation in our technologies and practices. Underneath the Earth crisis we have created and the global health crisis that it is precipitating is a spiritual crisis. The reverence and awe that most of us feel toward nature has lost its authority in guiding our decisions. We'll need to weave a new fabric with threads from indigenous knowledges, the world's faith traditions, literature, and the arts that reasserts our spiritual connection to the natural world and interdependence to one another. Our planet, our health, the state of Earth's natural systems, and the well-being of humanity cannot remain disconnected. We know what needs to be done. We have the solutions. It all depends on what we decide to do right now, today. Please join the planetary health movement.
Okay. Let me get out of here. There we go. So they do a really good job of explaining what it is. And as I said, it is hope-filled and it is solution oriented. But we need to move this along. We need to be getting these disciplines, all these various disciplines talking together. And to do that, we had to develop a shared language. And that shared language is the Planetary Health Education Framework. We pulled together about 24 experts from around the world, all in different disciplines, and sat on several Zoom meetings and said, okay, what do we need to teach all of the students in all of our disciplines in higher education around the world, and have it be part so that they will understand planetary health. We came up with a list of like 500 things that people wanted to teach. And as any of you who are teachers know, that isn't going to work. You can't have every single discipline put 500 things into their curriculum. So I said to the group, I said, let's think about this as in terms of winnowing, where you take a basket and you throw the grain up in the air and you let the things that aren't quite as important you go off with the wind, and you catch what's essential in your basket. And when we caught what was essential among all our disciplines, we had 5 core domains. The first is interconnection within nature, which absolutely shifts our thinking about this. Most people think that we need to reconnect to nature. We need people to understand that we are nature. We are absolutely interconnected. We can't be separated. When we separated ourselves with false narrative, we began to blow off the tops of mountains and pollute rivers and take as many forests as we wanted to, because we were separate from nature. It didn't matter. When you think of ourselves as nature, everything changes. We needed to understand the Anthropocene and that these problems we're seeing are caused by humans. We needed to have our solutions grounded in equity and social justice. We can no longer develop solutions that only work for 1% of a population. We need to be thinking in terms of systems and complexity, and not just solving things in one part of the system without considering other parts of the system. That's when you get in big trouble with unintended consequences. And we needed to think about movement building and how do we move this forward. That's our shared global language, these 5 domains. It allows me to talk with a farmer or an engineer or somebody who is a marine biologist and working in planetary health, and we have this shared language. The second thing that we needed was a shared vision, and the shared vision we call the Sao Paulo Declaration on Planetary Health, because it was supposed to be written and released at the Planetary Health Annual Meeting in Sao Paulo, Brazil in 2020, in April of 2020. And we all know what happened in April of 2020. So it became a virtual conference, which allowed many more people from the globe to attend and participate in the development of this vision statement. And what it says is we need a fundamental shift on how we live on Earth, what we're calling the Great Transition. And achieving this great transition will require rapid and deep structural changes across most dimensions of human activity. Excuse me, that means our economic models need to change, our farming models need to change, our teaching models need to change, our healthcare systems need to change. Everything needs to change. Now we can wring our hands and say, isn't that terrible? We want to go back to what we had. But what we had in the past didn't work for everybody. And it certainly is full of problems. It's collapsing right now. So now's our chance to build it over again and get it right. This is the 2 loops model, which I just briefly want to say, if anybody is wringing their hands about things really going downhill right now, yes, they are, because the dominant system is collapsing. In ecosystems, the growth and collapse and growth and collapse is a natural pattern. What we're seeing right now in all our human systems is they're starting to collapse. We need people who are the visionaries for the second loop, which is the emerging system. And that's what a lot of you are. That's what we're teaching at the university, is this visionary process of creating the new system. But I want to call your attention to the importance of taking time to do hospice work and help people who are grieving the loss of the current system, help them be excited about the emerging new system. And you might be thinking, gosh darn it, we have to move things so quickly. We hear by 2030, everything has to change, which is true. But take a look at this picture of New York City in 1900, Fifth Avenue. In 1900, there was one little tiny car there on the street, and everybody else was in horse and buggies. 13 years later, everybody was in a car. Though you can't even find a horse in the picture. So we have done this before. We have done incredible transformation as humans. We need to do it again. Excuse me. What the Sao Paulo Declaration is calling the health sector to do, because it has guidance for every single sector. It has guidance for people who build cities, guidance for agriculture, guidance for those who work with students, guidance for faith communities and poets and artists. And this is how the global community guides us, that we're supposed to be moving towards energy sources and procurement, health efficiency, waste reduction, being nature positive, carbon neutral by 2040. We're supposed to be moving towards resilient global environments, making sure our health systems are resilient, that we're really focusing on disease prevention and health promotion rather than illness care, incorporating health perspectives of traditions beyond Western medicine, traditional knowledge, indigenous peoples, integrative health practices, making sure that we have plenty of green space for people, ensuring nutritious diets for people, advocating for public access to culturally appropriate health services as a human right. That's wonderful. This is what we need to be teaching. This is what we are working towards. So the next piece, what we did with the ICN is we said we want to help draft a nursing for planetary health position paper. And we want to use the planetary health education framework, these 5 domains. So if we have these 5 shared domains that the global community is sharing, that the farmers are sharing, and the engineers are sharing, and the nurses are sharing, we also believe each discipline will live this out in different ways. And this is where I need your help and what we're starting to build. The first is interconnection with nature. And the question is, how will nurses live this out? And I just put up on the screen an example. One is that they're launching the inaugural symposium of an indigenous vision for intergenerational health. That's going to be in New York the week after Thanksgiving. I'm happy to say I'm bringing Misty Wilkie and Lisa Martin, 2 of our new indigenous faculty who are leading our indigenous nursing pathway. I'm bringing them out to Washington, D.C. so we can be in this space generating planetary health nurses based in and informed by indigenous knowledge. The next one is the Anthropocene in health. And I'm going to open this up for dialogue at the end here. So what's an example of the Anthropocene in health? It's actually saying, do people know what's happening? So we did some research with the Minnesota Department of Health on surveying Minnesota health professionals. We had over 4,000 health professionals take the survey because we wanted to see, are they understanding about climate change? Do they think it's real? Are they seeing it in patients? And they are seeing that it's real, and they are saying it's happening now, and they are saying that it's impacting their patients. And then when we finally asked, then are you teaching patients about this? We figured that they would say, they said no, we knew that they'd say no. And, but we thought that maybe the reasons they would list for saying no would be that there's not enough time in a clinic visit, and that it's just too partisan, there's concerns about partisanship and raising difficult issues. The number one issue by far was that people do not know what to say. They want to, but they don't know what to say. So the Minnesota Department of Health has created a video. I'm not going to play it, but it's available to all people on their climate website. It's only 11 minutes long, and it shows Dr. Taj Mustafa having a conversation with a patient that's receptive to hearing a climate message. And then an example of a patient having her having a conversation with a patient who's not receptive. And I won't play the whole thing, but it's out there, and I think you'll enjoy it. Okay.
Welcome to
Oh, there I am. I'm still trying not to play the whole thing.
this video about how
Okay, let's see if I can stop this. I always have a hard time shutting down this part of the video. And that one. Okay, I see all of you. Hold on a second. I'm going to move past this because I want to get onto this. Okay. And there we go. Equity and social justice, an example of one thing that we're doing, just or is being done. This is Pang Lor, one of my DNP students. She did a beautiful DNP project. She's Hmong, and she did a beautiful DNP project doing outreach to her Hmong farmers in her community. Through interviews with the Hmong farmers, she found out that there is not a word for climate in Hmong. And so they have missed most of the teaching, most of the information about what climate change is about. So they have been having terrible episodes of passing out from heat stroke out in the fields. And they did not know what was causing it. And because they didn't know what was causing it, they were using traditional methods to address when somebody passed out. And that was to give them hot water, because hot water is part of the healing system when somebody is not doing well. You give them hot water instead of cold water. They weren't pulling them into the shade. And they were also using some traditional, like needle poking to help to revive people. Because they did not know, and all the information had not reached them. So she translated all the wonderful infographics, wonderful climate information into Hmong and taught her community about climate change. Systems thinking and complexity. Well, certainly the Sustainable Development Goals are systems thinking, and they're a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful global goal method to address all these issues. And if you're not familiar with them, I urge you to take a look at them. Movement building and systems change. Example is I took 17 people to the United Nations last week, and we are building opportunities for nurses to get on committees and do work with the United Nations to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. We feel so strongly about working at that systems level at the university. In the sixth domain, we've added a sixth. Remember, I told you there's 5. Nurses are always spunky. We added a 6th, and that is we're going to model this. We're taking this on the road, and we're going to teach the other disciplines how to live out these 5 domains in their fields. So nurses are going to be the teachers. We're getting this moving, and we're presenting it in Malaysia in April. Another example is we're working on decarbonizing the U.S. health sector. So that's another systems approach and movement building. I invite you to join the movement. This little thing down here, n4ph.earth, is a link to our very, very, very rustic website. We're still working on that in the midst of writing policies and getting a book going. But if you want to go to n4ph.earth and sign up, you will be in the queue to receive additional information. And I've got resources for you, and Kathy can send all this out. But now we do the most important part, which is dialogue. I want to hear your thoughts on how would you and how can you put these 5 domains at work for you. So I'll be quiet and just let you tell me what your thoughts are.
I'm wondering what you're going to do for the American Nurses Association and this topic.
Oh, well, I know the ANA is doing extremely good work in advancing many things. Let's see, we just finished a policy statement for them. And I think it was released this fall. I think it was finished up and released this fall. But there's more. I guess I would turn it back to you. What are you going to do?
Well, I'm wondering, Kathy, how we give names for ANA to have at our next meeting in June. If this would be a good topic, we should share with them. If nurses in most of the other states haven't been included with this topic, this would be a nice one to provide for them.
Yeah, I think ANA is making steps that way. I don't know if they have something planned for the membership assembly, but there is a big policy statement that was released this fall, and they're working on an infographic that they can be giving out at conferences, and they'll give us copies so we can have a PDF version we can put in newsletters on websites and things. So it took them from 2008 until now to get on board, but they're on board with all of their feet, and they're ready to go. So I think we're in good shape there. And I know that other states are they're very interested in it, and it's not a red state, blue state kind of thing. It's every state. So I'm feeling good about that.
Okay,
I think
good.
that Martha had her hand up too.
Yes. So subtle, aren't I? Anybody recognize this?
I do.
Great. So we're revising it, as you heard me talk about last month, but planetary health is definitely on the docket for being integrated, not only just in a sentence or two, but in several interpretive statements, and perhaps even expanding it in provision 9 to embrace the things that you were just talking about, Teddie.
Lovely.
So we have you as an interested partner, so you can let us know if we get it right or even edit it. So we'll have lots of time before it goes out for public comment for you to help us expand, but we're going to have room to give it decent amount of space. So that's what we're going to do.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear that.
And of course, we don't have anybody as expert as you on our writing team. And so we may call on you even before that.
I will definitely take you up on that if invited.
Or you could recommend somebody too. If you have students who want to work with us, or, we're all sorts of opportunity.
Absolutely. We have spectacular students that are moving in this area and doing very exciting work. Another one is working on resilience hubs for rural areas around the state of Minnesota. So when people need a break from heat, they have a place to go, and he's training nurses to manage and start these hubs up. I wanted to talk about the SIGMA resolution that passed. Be it resolved that SIGMA raises the collective voice of nursing and leverages its power of trust to influence critical decisions regarding nurses' roles, responsibilities, engagement in advancing planetary health, vital to the future of the nursing profession, the well-being of humans, and the sustainability of planetary Earth. So it's just so exciting to see our nursing professional organizations stepping up. And every time a nurses take action, I blast it out to the planetary health world globally, so that people begin to realize, oh gosh, my profession is not really doing much. I better get going.
So these concepts are relevant at the bedside and domestically and with our colleagues and on a global level.
Absolutely.
So if you remember the relationship structure of the code, how those 9 provisions cover each of those relationships, it will be woven as an issue throughout, as opposed to.
I love that.
Good.
Yeah, that's the strategy we're taking at the school too. We're not making a planetary health minor or a planetary health honors course or a planetary health elective. We're weaving it through the entire curriculum of our baccalaureate, our master's, our DNP, and our PhD program.
I have another question related to this topic. Are any nurses, a lot of nurses, doing some good research projects with this topic?
They are. It's as I say, an emerging field. So I can't say there's thousands or hundreds or even tens and tens and tens of nurses doing this, because it's so new. But I am happy to say I'm now sitting on the national NINR, so the National Institute of Health's nursing research arm. And they invited, like, I think there were 5 or 6 of us to advise them on topics that they can put money into for nursing research.
Oh, good.
So that's going to be huge. Once we have funding to start driving this, we're going to start to see a lot more action in this space. There's probably, I would say, maybe 5 or 6 researchers that I would say are definitely doing planetary health. We have some really nice climate change researchers that are doing work in this space as well.
Oh, good.
Are there other universities that have programs similar to yours, or?
It's
What's
kind of
going on,
sweet.
Dan?
It's kind of sweet. They call me up and they say, my dean has just said I can start a program. How do I do it? So, so I've been on the phone quite a bit these days, sort of mentoring nursing programs around the country. Fabulous. I'm so glad you're able to move into this. These are some tips for how to get one going.
Good.
But lots of wonderful young people. There's the Alliance of Nurses for Healthy Environments has wonderful researchers and nurses in practice. So we really cover the scope. It's research, education, policy work, practice, leadership, innovators. We're all through nursing.
Yeah. This is
Savannah-
an important. Go ahead, Kathy.
Oh, I was just going to say, Savannah had a comment in the chat about a film, I think.
Just for spreading the word to all sorts of people, not from nursing point of view, but reasons for hope. And I had to see it with my husband first. Normally we would take grandchildren to a movie. We didn't dare take the grandchildren. We didn't want it to be a scare tactic or a real scary thing, but it gives the story of different projects, and they all sound so highfalutin, but they're very real world projects that are helping undo all the damage we've done in very small but concrete ways. They're small if you look at the world, but they're huge if you look at the locale. And so it's just, and it's good for me because I have to tune all this out. I've been so depressed about it for decades, and for the last 8 years especially, that now and then I'm trying to dip back in and say, I can handle it. I don't have to be depressed. I can look for something to do. Well, helping the grandchildren understand is one little tiny thing. Saying I'm gonna fly less. I mean, like, video is good. I could get my electric car down to a meeting, Kathy, but I couldn't get it up to Duluth. It's an old electric. At any rate, whatever you can do. But in my life, I'm not nursing anymore. In my life, it means don't fly as much, drive short, organize, buy less, teach the kids.
Yeah.
People have asked me how I stay hopeful, and it's like, how can I not be hopeful? I have met so many fabulous people in this movement that are, as you say, doing amazing, amazing work. Just in Minnesota, they're developing a tree that grows 9 feet a year, and they're just about ready to start to get it out, to market. But isn't that amazing? Because now we can replant our cities, the areas that don't have adequate tree coverage and are overheated. We know there's tree deserts, just like there's food deserts. There's also a new crop they're working on called kernza, which is a grain which has very, very, very deep roots. It has much better, you don't need as much water. It prevents soil erosion, and you're able to do all the same sort of, baking and things like that with it. So there's just incredible things going on. And I'm not talking about the dangerous things like seeding our atmosphere with strange things. There's good, solid work that people are doing, and good-hearted people. They're amazing humanitarians all over the world, working on these issues and thinking about future generations. So the antidote to despair is to get going and work with people, whatever you can do.
Well, this is a great topic, and it's so important for Minnesota. There was a good article, I think it was in today's Duluth paper, about rural versus urban healthcare, around the state, like way up in northern Minnesota. Some of those rural areas is mostly older people, and there's less healthcare available, less people for them to see and to get taken care of. And because they're older, they can't get around, and maybe a little less finance. So this topic really fits with that rural versus urban perspective too, in terms of the healthcare.
Absolutely.
That we have to look at that too.
And our farmers who depend on, their crops coming at a certain time, and the old patterns of rain, and that all those patterns have shifted and changed. So we have to be considering the wellness of our farmers and their livelihoods as these climates change. So this is not an urban issue. This is all of us all in issue.
With all this great stuff that's going on, I just have a question about funding. How is it all? Who is funding, and where is it coming from? And do you need more? And
yes, always. And it's Give to the Max Day, folks. There's still a couple hours left on that. So let's start internationally. I think there's certainly some corporations that are realizing, my goodness, we have to get involved in turning this around. Corporations like Patagonia that are doing really responsible business practices, and there's many others that are doing that similarly. Nationally, whether you like this or don't like this, Biden's doing amazing work, and making sure that we have some legislature, such as the Inflation Reduction Act, which has really been a boon to all of us. It has a very strong climate element, but it's also preparing our infrastructure for storms that we haven't prepared for, and making sure our bridges can withstand rivers that are flooded, etc. So our nation right now is really has pivoted into a very good position. We're actually drawing down our carbon levels as we had promised. So we're not there yet, and we haven't reached what we had promised, but at least we're going in the right direction. And so that's federal funding. Locally, the Minnesota State Legislature has done some amazing work, and because a lot of money was saved during the COVID years, reinvestment of that funds into addressing climate change has been a very positive move on their part. I started the Center for Planetary Health and Environmental Justice at the University of Minnesota. We just launched that. We have a budget of 0. So if anybody wants to contribute anything, that always is will carry us far. I can tell you that it will be well used, and I won't what did the congressperson in New York do? I won't buy things with any funding that comes my way. I'll make sure that it's responsibly used. So yes, I think I would love to see all of us every year consider, just like we do, making a contribution, to honor our families, or to honor birth of a child, or honor the passing of a family member, with somehow a contribution to restoring the health of the planet. It's really considering our future generations, and what space we'll be giving them.
Well, I think we're about at the end of our time together. I just wrote myself a note that I'm going to talk to you, Teddie, about coming up with a list of organizations that are good ones to donate to on this issue. So, it's much easier for us to have a starting list to go from. And I think it's a great idea that we make donations in honor of people and in honor of each other and the planet and everything, to organizations that help support this work. So I have a note to myself. But thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. Heidi, do you have something to?
Yeah, absolutely. This was fascinating. I think we could go on another hour if we were allowed, but we will tie it up here. For those who attended here, you'll be getting a survey. If you'd be so kind as to fill that out, you'll be getting a CEU certificate as well. And Teddie, I can't remember, are you sending your slides to the people that attended as well?
I'll be sending, I'll send a
Kathy?
PDF of
Okay.
them.
Yep.
Okay, great. That's wonderful. Well,
And
thanks to, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
you all know where to find me. So don't what do they say? I can't think of it, but
Don't be a stranger.
That's it. Don't be a stranger. You know where to find me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.